This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, June 19th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump says he has not decided on striking Iran.
I may do it, I may not do it.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A Massachusetts jury finds Karen Reed not guilty of murdering her boyfriend.
No one has fought harder for justice.
I'm Jim Roope.
The Supreme Court has approved Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for kids. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
The United States now paying close attention to the social media accounts of foreigners who want to study here. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, it's quiet today. The markets are closed for the Juneteenth holiday after a lackluster day yesterday. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Hurricane Eric intensifies. We'll have the latest track. Plus, travel ban. Nations put on notice. All ahead on America in the Morning. An Israeli hospital has suffered extensive damage from an Iranian missile strike. This after Israel attacked yet another nuclear site in Iran. Targeting the Fordo nuclear plant in Iran with bunker buster bombs remains a key option the U.S. is prioritizing. Israel's military says it has degraded Iran's ability to launch large barrages of ballistic missiles. Russia's Putin has offered to broker a deal. More on the ongoing conflict from Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani.
President Trump says he has not decided on striking Iran, but suggests he's ready to act.
Nothing's finished until it's finished. You know, war is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And we'll see. The next week is going to be very big. Maybe less than a week. Maybe less.
This morning.
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble.
And hours later.
I don't want to fight either. I'm not looking to fight.
But
if it's a choice between fighting and them having a nuclear weapon, you have to do what you have to do.
Highlighting that red line versus his campaign pledge of not getting the U.S. into another war. The president says it's not too late for Iran to give up its nuclear program and says Iranian officials have offered to come to the White House for talks. Tehran's UN mission says that's a lie.
Most of what I can or should say would be reserved for a classified setting. I would say the president, obviously, any decisions on this matter are at the presidential level.
Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth tells a Senate panel he's given the president strike options, but will not say if the military will help with Israeli strikes on Iran.
If I had or I had not, I wouldn't disclose that in this forum, Senator. My job, our job, Chairman and I, at all times, is to make sure the president has options and is informed of what those options might be and what the ramifications of those options. Any decisions on this matter are at the presidential level.
In Tehran, Iran's supreme leader rejected U.S. calls for an unconditional surrender. The president's response?
Say good luck.
The U.S. has now started evacuating non-essential diplomats from its Israeli embassy as the conflict grows. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Back here at home, a Massachusetts jury finds Karen Reed not guilty in the 2022 murder of her Boston police officer boyfriend. Jim Roope reports the verdict came a year after a separate jury deadlocked over Reed's involvement in the death.
You could hear the cheers of supporters outside the courthouse when the verdict was read inside the courthouse.
Defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
While the jury concluded Reed is not guilty of manslaughter and second-degree murder.
Operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. So say you, Mr. Foreman? Guilty. So say you all?
Yes. The jury did find her guilty of drunk driving the night her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, was found dead outside the home of a fellow officer. Prosecutors argued that Reed, driving drunk, hit O'Keefe and then drove away. Her defense team argued that O'Keefe was killed inside the home, beaten to death, and then dragged outside. Outside the courthouse, Reed told the crowd of supporters,
No one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have.
This acquittal comes nearly a year after a jury deadlocked in the case, resulting in a mistrial. Prosecutors argued O'Keefe had been trying to break up with Reed. Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan telling the court that O'Keefe had asked Reed to leave his home, but she would not. Some of the evidence presented in the case were emails and text messages suggesting a relationship in trouble.
Tensions are simmering beneath the surface. They are not getting along. She believes Mr. Keefe is already halfway out of the relationship and he's not into it anymore. You will read them, you saw them. This relationship was unstable and at its end.
He says Reed was a woman scorned, and so she ran over him with her SUV and left him to die. The jury sided with the defense. Attorney Alan Jackson saying in his closing argument,
"Not a single medical expert called by the defense or called by the Commonwealth has testified that John was hit by a car. Not one."
I'm Jim Roope.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Smarter sleep is life-changing. Save over $600 on a Sleep Number King P5 smart bed, the lowest price of the season, only at a Sleep Number store. Supreme Court rules on gender transition treatments when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Fire risks from Canada now move into the southwestern U.S. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Another round of hot and dry conditions continues over the desert southwest and Four Corners, and an extended period of daily gusty winds is all that's needed to lead to a heightened fire risk from the border of northern California and Nevada across both Nevada and Utah, as well as southwestern Wyoming, western Colorado, and northern Arizona. Wind gusts in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range from today through Sunday, and continued very low humidity levels will promote these prime fire conditions, with some slackening of the wind by Monday to lead to a reduction in that risk. On the other hand, humidity levels will remain rather high in the northeast, mid-Atlantic, and the southeast, with some risk for a thunderstorm stretching from the Rio Grande Valley through eastern Texas, all of the south, and into the southeast. There may be a bit higher coverage of thunderstorms over the southern half or so of the Florida Peninsula as well, with a thunderstorm possible at any time over much of Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee. However, those storms have the highest chance to turn severe within two zones today. The first zone will take shape this afternoon near and along a cold front draped over the northern plains, bringing the risk for storms with localized damaging wind gusts of 55 to 65 miles per hour and perhaps some hail into tonight from central North Dakota toward northeastern Iowa and all but eastern Wisconsin, though showers and storms extend from there to Michigan and much of Ohio. Today's most active severe zone will be along the eastern seaboard, where storms this afternoon and evening may produce wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour, plus hail and tornadoes from northern and western Maine through western Connecticut, most of Pennsylvania, and into northern North Carolina. In Nashville, today looks humid with widely separated thunderstorms and a high of 87. For Portland, Oregon, it's a nice day instead with clouds and sun, the high 72. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Tennessee will be allowed to continue their state policy banning gender transition treatments for minors following a ruling at the U.S. Supreme Court. More on the decision from correspondent Haya Panjwani.
The Supreme Court has approved Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for kids. The decision is a setback for transgender rights. The Justice's 6-3 decision effectively protects from legal challenges many of the efforts by President Donald Trump's administration and other Republican state governments to roll back protections for transgender people. Another 26 states have laws similar to the one in Tennessee. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for a conservative majority that the law does not violate the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, which requires the government to treat similarly situated people the same. Justice Sonia Sotomayor writes in a dissent joined by her liberal colleagues that the majority abandons transgender children and their families to political whims. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Officials will reportedly begin screening the online presence of foreign nationals applying for educational visas to attend schools in the United States. Correspondent Clayton Neville explains.
A reported instruction from the State Department to consulars' offices asks that they review applicants' social media and online presence for any indications of hostility towards citizens, culture, government, institutions, or even founding principles of the United States. Embassies must also flag any advocacy for, aid, or support for foreign terrorists and other threats to national security. The screening will apply for both new and returning student visa applicants. Consular officers must take detailed case notes about their review of applicants' online presences, and they're asked to take screenshots. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Fed holds rates steady. Plus, multifamily apartments outpace home sales. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. The holiday market update with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street is quiet this morning. The financial markets are closed for this Juneteenth holiday. One thing is trading today, though. Cryptocurrencies. You can buy things like Bitcoin anytime you want, 24/7. That market never closes. Markets were mixed yesterday after the Fed signaled it's in no hurry to cut interest rates. They did hold rates steady. Here's CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman with what the Fed is saying about the economy.
No change in the Federal Reserve funds rate, staying at a net level of 4.25% to 4.5%. They're saying the economy continues to expand at a solid pace. Unemployment remains low. Inflation is somewhat elevated. Now, the Fed forecasts increase the inflation outlook. They reduce growth for 2025. This is a second step in a row that the Fed has taken toward a more stagflationary forecast of higher inflation and lower growth.
Here's where you stand this morning. If you have a retirement or a brokerage account and you have an S&P 500 index fund in it, like a lot of Americans, you are up 1.5% so far for the year, which is below the rate of inflation. Advisors say technically it's a loss. Toy maker Hasbro blaming the Trump tariffs for forcing it to cut jobs, saying it's facing higher costs and has to do something.
Hasbro is dealing with tariffs. Remember, this is a company, when we say toys are made in China, where half of the toys and games from Hasbro are made in China. So this company is absorbing higher tariffs, and the CEO has said to manage through the tariff effects, they're going to have to see either higher consumer prices or job losses or some sort of combination.
CNBC's Sarah Eisen. Investors got a fresh read on the new construction home business yesterday, and guess what? It's all about building apartments.
Building permits, which is, of course, an indication of future construction. Multifamily taking a slight bump up. And that's interesting because we have started to see rents move a little bit higher in multifamily. All that new supply coming in, but there's such strong demand for rental apartments right now. Why? Because people are not buying homes. They're also staying in their apartments longer. And that's why you're starting to see developers say, hey, wait a minute, we're still undersupplied and we need to start building again. So multifamily permits were up pretty strongly, up 13% year over year.
That's CNBC's Diana Olick. Yesterday, for the first time since 1901, U.S. Steel was no longer on the New York Stock Exchange as Japan's Nippon Steel finalized its takeover. Today is the Juneteenth holiday. But on tomorrow's watch list, the markets certainly will trade, and we get earnings from CarMax, Olive Garden, Parent Garden Restaurants, and Kroger. New in theaters, it's Disney Pixar's Elio, Magenta's Bridehard, and Sony's horror film sequel, 28 years later. Plus, tomorrow is Bring Your Dog to Work Day.
Okay, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, those nations facing a U.S. travel ban. After these messages. You're with America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. The first major hurricane of the 2025 season to threaten land has formed and is gaining strength. Hurricane Eric powered up to a Category 3 major hurricane last night as it bore down on the southern portion of Mexico's coast, threatening to unleash destructive winds, flash floods, and a dangerous storm surge on the region in the coming hours. Eric jumped from a Category 1 to a Category 3 storm with winds at 120 miles an hour. The projected path would take its center near the resort of Acapulco, which still has damage from Hurricane Otis in 2023, a monster Category 5 that left over 50 people dead and damaged almost all of the resort area hotels. Well, the Trump administration is demanding action from several dozen countries currently facing a proposed U.S. travel ban. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports without compliance, bans against travel from those nations into the U.S. will go into effect.
The Trump administration has given 36 countries, most of them in Africa, a Wednesday deadline to commit to improving vetting or face a ban on their citizens visiting the United States. While State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce declined to comment on the specifics in the cable, she did confirm that the administration wants nations to improve their own vetting processes for passport holders, accept their nationals deported from the U.S., and take other steps to ensure their citizens are not a threat to the U.S. The cable asked the countries to take action to address the U.S. concerns within 60 days or risk being added to the travel ban, which now includes 12 nations. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Thursday, June 19th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
President Trump is again ripping the Federal Reserve's chair.
A stupid person, frankly, at the Fed.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A heated hearing as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faces lawmakers on Capitol Hill. I'm Clayton Neville.
Political fallout and divine intervention in the Minnesota lawmaker shootings. I'm Rich Johnson.
Nuclear waste, the Supreme Court gets the last word.
The new coronavirus variant has earned a nickname. I'm Ed Donahue.
Social media platform X sues the state of New York. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
The original summer blockbuster celebrates a milestone this week. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning as forecasters continue to watch Hurricane Eric in the Pacific. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton has weather for the rest of us.
As a cold front slowly approaches the coast of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast today and into tonight, it's going to crash into a rather hot and humid air mass that will provide a proper summer preview for many in terms of the overall feel today, the last full day of spring. These conditions will be rather shocking for some after what has been a long stretch with temperatures generally not too far above the historical average for much of the second half of spring and rather frequent cloudy or rainy days. By the late morning hours, thunderstorms should be getting underway over parts of Ohio, West Virginia, and western Pennsylvania. The heat and humidity in place will fuel additional thunderstorms not only in those areas, but also places to the south and east of there that may be able to turn severe this afternoon and evening from the Carolinas into most of New York State, including the New York City metro area and most parts of New England to the north and west of Interstate 95. Any storm may bring hail, strong wind gusts, and some tornadoes. However, the risk for at least a spotty afternoon thunderstorm will exist from eastern and southern Texas through the southeast, although a storm may occur at any time from the Tennessee Valley northward. Showers and some thunderstorms are also expected from eastern Minnesota and much of Wisconsin, where storms may also turn severe with hail and damaging winds, although the thunder risk may turn out somewhat lower for eastern portions of both lower Michigan and the upper peninsula. What will not be low is the heat in the west, especially outside of the northwest behind a cold front that will continue to progress through the day. Temperatures still soar well into the hundreds and even surpass 110 degrees for some from southwestern Arizona toward the California border under sunshine as a fire risk develops for parts of the southwest with gusty winds building. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Concerns over tariffs and stagnation were reasons the Fed chairman gave that interest rates would remain unchanged, drawing a rebuke from President Trump, who has demanded that interest rates go lower to help spur the economy. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports that President Trump did not hold back his anger at Jerome Powell.
Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective.
President Trump is again ripping the Federal Reserve's chair as the central bank mulls what to do with interest rates.
We have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed.
The president's been bashing Jerome Powell for not cutting rates.
We have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed. Europe had 10 cuts, and we had none. And I guess he's a political guy. I don't know. He's a political guy who's not a smart person, but he's costing the country a fortune.
Which is not entirely true. Europe's central bank cut rates 8 times in the past year, while the Fed did it 3 times.
Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs because someone has to pay for the tariffs. And it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned between the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, ultimately somebody putting it into a good of some kind or just the consumer buying it.
Powell said for months the Fed needs to see the economic impacts of the president's trade wars and other policies before making any moves.
I don't even think he's that political. I think he hates me, but that's okay. You know, he should. He should. I call him every name in the book, trying to get him to do something. I've been nice to him. I do it always. I don't know how to sell. I've been so nice to him, fellas, you wouldn't believe. Let's have dinner. Too late. I'd call him too late. Come on, too late. Let's have dinner. I do it every way in the book. I'm nasty. I'm nice. Nothing works. He's like just a stupid person.
And muses, perhaps he should have the job.
Am I allowed to appoint myself at the Fed? I do a much better job than these people.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The American military continues to plan with Israel on targeting the Fordo nuclear plant in Iran with bunker buster bombs. This after an Iranian missile struck a major hospital in Israel overnight. Back in Washington on Capitol Hill, a congressional hearing on the Defense Department budget brought some heated exchanges between lawmakers and U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Correspondent Clayton Neville files this report.
There were contentious moments during the Senate hearing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth got into it with lawmakers on issues surrounding recent military deployments to L.A. in response to anti-ICE riots and over alleged anti-Semitism at the Pentagon.
Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way?
Senator Alyssa Slotkin addressed speculation surrounding military directives on protesters.
I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues across the aisle.
What is that based on? What evidence would you have that an order like that has ever been given?
Giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay.
Secretary Hegseth bit back.
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh, my God.
Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen asked the former Fox News host about the firings of several top national security officials, including the director of the National Security Agency. Those firings allegedly being made at the request of social media influencer Laura Loomer.
Did you discuss General Huck's dismissal with Laura Loomer prior to his removal?
I don't discuss who I talk about anything with, but ultimately this is my decision, and he serves at the pleasure of the president, and that's why he's no longer there.
So do you believe it's appropriate for any social media personality to influence personnel decisions in your department, yes or no?
There was a pause.
I believe your time is up, Senator.
Oh, it is not up to you to tell me when my time is up.
The senator didn't like that.
You're not in control of your department. Yours is unserious. It is shocking. You're not combating anti-Semitism within your ranks. It's a dangerous and pivotal time in our nation's history, and I don't appreciate the smirk, sir. You are the Secretary of Defense.
Hegseth was also pressed about discussing pending military strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen and signal chats, which he caught grief for not long after he took his post at the Defense Department. I'm Clayton Neville.
Saturday's shootings that claimed the lives of a Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband and left another lawmaker and his wife seriously wounded could have been much worse. Correspondent Rich Johnson follows up on another politician that was on the suspects' hit list.
Divine intervention is what Minnesota State Representative Kristen Bonner believes is what kept her and her family safe early Saturday. She and her family were not home when police say Vance Belter came to their house in the middle of his shooting rampage. In a written statement, Bonner said, "This senseless violence came to my door as well, placing me and my family in harm's way. I do not know why this man was filled with such hatred that he would come to my door. Divine intervention led my family to change our plans, keeping us safe. Also, police say someone broke into the home of murdered State Rep Melissa Hortman and her husband, but the family says it doesn't look like the burglar took anything. And some close-to-home criticism for Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee over his now-deleted social media posts implying that Democrats were to blame for the shootings and ridiculing Governor Tim Walz. The editorial board of Utah's largest newspaper, the Deseret News, wrote that Lee revealed a lack of compassion for both victims and their loved ones and cast a poor light on the state. I'm Richard Johnson.
U.S. nuclear waste? The Supreme Court decides. Plus, the state of New York sued for alleged online censorship. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. One of sports' most iconic teams is changing hands in a record deal. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports on the sale of a 17-time NBA title-winning franchise and the record-breaking price.
The Buss family has agreed to sell the controlling stake of the Los Angeles Lakers to TWG Global CEO Mark Walter, doing so with a franchise valuation of $10 billion, the most ever for a professional sports franchise. Jeannie Buss, whose family has had control of the Lakers since her father bought the team in 1979, intends to remain as governor. Walter is part of the ownership of many other franchises, including the Los Angeles Dodgers, Chelsea FC, the Los Angeles Sparks, and several auto racing teams. I'm Gethin Coolball.
Despite a request from his defense attorney, the judge overseeing the trial of Brian Kohberger indicated he will not delay the trial that's scheduled for August. A hearing on Wednesday focused on two motions from Kohberger's defense team, one seeking to delay the trial, another which sought to include evidence that they claim points to the existence of alternate perpetrators. Judge Stephen Hippler declined to issue a ruling. He told the attorney to be prepared for an August trial. You'll recall Kohberger is accused in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. Well, doctors are sounding the alarm abroad about a new coronavirus strain that has received an unusual nickname. Ed Donahue reports.
The new coronavirus variant has earned a nickname. The variant is called Nimbus. The nickname is razor blade throat COVID. It may cause painful, sore throats. The symptoms were identified by doctors in the UK, India, and elsewhere. Other symptoms of any variant include fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, or loss of taste or smell. Experts say there isn't any major cause for concern with razor blade throat COVID. The World Health Organization says the rise in cases is mostly in the eastern Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, and Western Pacific regions. Airport screenings in the U.S. detected the new variant in travelers arriving from those regions to California, Washington State, Virginia, and New York. The WHO says the public health risk is low, and current vaccines are expected to remain effective. I'm Ed Donahue.
The nation's highest court will have the final say for nuclear waste storage in 2 U.S. states. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez reports.
The Supreme Court has restarted plans to temporarily store nuclear waste at sites in Texas and New Mexico. The ruling would allow companies to operate the facilities for over 40 years, with licenses granted by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Justice Brett Kavanaugh concluded that Texas and a major landowner in southwest Texas forfeited their right to challenge the NRC licensing decision in federal court. Justice Neil Gorsuch objected, stating nuclear fuel can only be temporarily stored in 2 places, at a nuclear reactor or at a federally owned facility. The NRC has said that the temporary storage sites are needed because existing nuclear plants are running out of room. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, and New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, a Democrat, are leading bipartisan opposition to the facilities in their states. The facility would be built next to an existing dump site west of Dallas. The New Mexico facility would be near Carlsbad. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
Elon Musk's social media platform X is suing the state of New York over a new law that they believe is tantamount to censorship. Chuck Palm explains in today's Tech Report.
Social media platform X has sued the state of New York to try to stop them from requiring reports on how their social media platform handles problematic posts. Late last year, New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law a measure that X believes impinges on their free rights based on a 1996 federal law that allowed internet platforms to moderate how they see fit. X alleges that New York is improperly trying to inject itself into the content moderation editorial process. The suit went on to say that the state is impermissibly trying to generate public controversy about content moderation, and that they believe they're trying to restrict, limit, disfavor, or censor certain constitutionally protected content. The New York Attorney General said in a statement that they will stand ready to defend the constitutionality of our laws. Democrat Senators Brad Hoylman-Segal and Assemblymember Grace Lee co-sponsored the bill and believe the law will make social media more transparent and companies more accountable. For more, find me at chuckpalm.com.
Sports is in with Robert Workman this Thursday morning.
The NCAA College World Series final is all set. Coastal Carolina defeated Louisville 11-3 to advance Wednesday, scoring 5 times in the first inning before even making an out. The Chanticleers have now won 26 consecutive games. Then last night, number 6 LSU rallied for 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th to upend SEC rival and third-ranked Arkansas 6-5. The best-of-3 final begins Saturday in Omaha. In the majors, the Dodgers blew a 2-run lead in the 9th, but got a walk-off pinch hit home run from Will Smith to boost them past the Padres 4-3. Braves blanked the Mets 5-0. Chris Sale came within 1 out of his first shutout in 6 years. Manager Brian Snitker gave him the chance.
He's a pro. He's a pro, and you root for guys like that, and and he gets it in all the situations. He gets it.
New York has now lost 5 in a row. Over in the Bronx, 6 straight L's for the Yankees after a 3-2 loss to the Angels. Meantime, in D.C., the Nationals dropped their 11th consecutive game, falling to the Rockies 3-1. Astros scored 7 times in the 6th to put away the A's 11-4. Jose Altuve and Victor Caratini each with a 3-run homer. Rays rallied past the Orioles 12-8. Baltimore scored all of its runs in the second inning to take an 8-0 lead, but Tampa Bay scored a dozen unanswered. Red Sox sank the Mariners, Phillies reeled in the Marlins, Blue Jays buried the Diamondbacks, Royals ripped the Rangers, Guardians tripped the Giants, and the Reds doubled up the Twins. The game shortened to 6 innings by rain. Bad weather for the Tigers and Pirates, so they'll play 2 today. Tarek Skubal scheduled to pitch the opener, Paul Skeens in the nightcap. Could be a record-setting crowd for a midweek split doubleheader. Cardinals and White Sox were rained out. They'll play a doubleheader today. Cubs and Brewers also postponed. They'll make that one up in August. That's Thursday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, an important food recall to be aware of, and celebrating the 50th anniversary of this silver screen menace after these messages. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are getting a raise, a 400% raise. The Cowboys settled a lawsuit with a former cheerleader in 2019 that led to the squad doubling their per-game pay from $200 to $400. In that suit, Erica Wilkins claimed unfair pay, saying she received roughly $7 per hour with no overtime and a flat rate of $200 per game, which in total ended up being less than the annual pay for the team's mascot. America in the Morning continues. A chicken pasta product is being recalled. Correspondent Jennifer King reports on ready-to-eat meals sold at Kroger and Walmart that has led to illnesses and death in several states.
Check your fridge and freezer. A deadly food poisoning outbreak has been linked to Listeria bacteria in Heat and Eat chicken fettuccine Alfredo, sold at Kroger and Walmart. Food producer Fresh Realm is recalling varieties of market-side and home chef products made before June 17th. Federal health officials say 3 people died and at least 17 people have been sickened in 13 states in the outbreak that began in July of last year. Officials say they have not identified the specific source of the contamination. Listeria infections can cause serious illness, particularly in older adults, people with weakened immune systems, and those who are pregnant or their newborns. I'm Jennifer King.
1975, a summer that many were deeply afraid to go into the water after the blockbuster film about a gigantic shark hit theaters. Kevin Carr has more on the 50th anniversary week of the classic movie Jaws.
50 years ago this week, a motion picture was released that redefined cinema.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Based on the best-selling book by Peter Benchley and directed by a relatively unknown Steven Spielberg, Jaws hit the screens on June 20th, 1975. The story follows an aquaphobic sheriff of a small seaside town who must hunt down a man-eating great white shark.
You yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
The production was plagued with problems, from a script being rewritten day to day to a mechanical underwater shark that rarely worked. However, when it was released, Jaws took the world by storm.
Well, this is not a boat accident. It wasn't any propeller. It wasn't any coral reef. And it wasn't Jack the Ripper.
Jaws became the first film ever to gross $100 million in its original theatrical run, and its blockbuster status was felt for years, spawning 3 sequels of varying quality. Yep, that's the shark actually roaring in Jaws 4: The Revenge. Jaws opened the floodgates to a string of copycat films like Orca, Piranha, and Alligator, along with man versus nature thrillers like Grizzly, Prophecy, and Day of the Animals.
The beaches are open, and people are having a wonderful time.
Jaws also affected swimming experiences for generations. Admit it, as a kid, this movie had you swim just a little bit faster to the side of the pool after using the diving board. I'm Kevin Carr.
Juneteenth is a federal holiday. Most federal, state, and city employees get the day off. The DMV and Social Security Administration will be closed. No mail delivery from the U.S. Post Office. The stock market and most banks will be closed today. America in the Morning for Thursday, June 19th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.